All right, what's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. Ravens flock, Ravens flock, Ravens flock, Ravens flock. We gotta talk because the playoff bracket is set and we've got a conversation that needs to be had here. So, before we get into the AFC bracket, we gotta briefly mention what the NFC bracket is. In the NFC, it is set. The San Francisco 49ers got the number one seed. They have home field advantage throughout the playoffs as long as they're still in the postseason. The number two seed goes to the Dallas Cowboys. They were able to win the NFC East over the Eagles, so they get the two seed. The three seed goes to the Detroit Lions. Shout out to the Lions for winning your first ever NFC North title and your first division title since 1993. Shout out to you guys. You will have a home playoff game. The number four seed goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's been a weird year. Obviously, no one really expected much from the Bucs. I picked the Bucs to win the division because I thought they were the best team in the division, and I felt with Baker Mayfield it would be just enough to squeak into the playoffs. And lo and behold, it was just enough to squeak into the playoffs. So they are the four seed. The five seed is the depressing Philadelphia Eagles. It must not be a good feeling right now if you're an Eagles fan. This team is just trending in the wrong direction. I believe they've lost, four of their last five games or five of the last six games? They were 10-1 at some point, and now look at them. Just shameful. Oh my goodness. But they're the fifth seed. They're going up to Tampa Bay, and honestly, I don't even know what to expect from them there. I don't know if they can win a game in the playoffs right now with the way they're looking. But they are the fifth seed. The sixth seed is the LA Rams. Matthew Stafford and the Rams, they got it going in the second half. Kyron Williams started getting it going in the run game. He's an amazing back. Stafford started getting healthy. Cooper Kupp got healthy. Puka Nacua is having an amazing rookie season. It is the best rookie wide receiver season we've ever had. Oh my goodness, what a stud of a player he is. But yeah, the Rams get some level of resurgence, and now they're back in the playoffs, which sets up a very interesting matchup with them and the Lions. Cannot wait to see how that game's going to go. And of course, the seventh seed is the Green Bay Packers that sneak in. The Packers weren't expected to be here. The Packers were supposed to be a team that was slowly trying to rebuild under Jordan Love. But Jordan Love, his first year as a starter, has an amazing first year as a starter and helps this team get to the playoffs. And I can't wait to see what he's going to do against Dallas. That should be a very interesting matchup. But we're not here to talk about those matchups. We're not even here to give predictions. We're here to talk about the AFC, specifically the Ravens. Before we get into the Ravens, we do have to mention the bracket. In the AFC, the Ravens hold the number one seed, so they have a first round bye, and the playoffs go through Baltimore as long as Baltimore is in the postseason. The number two seed in the AFC is the Buffalo Bills. Congratulations to the Bills for winning the AFC East. It took a tough victory here in Miami to pull it off, but you got it done. Shout out to you guys. You guys have the two seed. The number three seed goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. They got that last week, won the AFC West, and rested their starters this week. The number four seed is the Houston Texans. The Texans were able to win the division thanks to the epic collapse of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shout out to the Texans. You also weren't expected to be here, but this rookie and CJ Stroud, he gets drafted and puts up an amazing rookie year and helps lead this team to the playoffs in a divisional crown. You will host a playoff game. The fifth seed is the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have had a season from hell, and yet they have refused to die. They lost Deshaun Watson for the season. They are piling up injuries right now. So many guys are on the IR right now. It has been a mess of a season for the Browns in terms of these injuries. They've alternated between PJ Walker and DTR. They had to go sign Flacco, who was sitting on his couch, and somehow that signing was enough to get a resurgence and help lead this team to the playoffs. We don't know how far they can go, but no matter what happens, Browns fans, be proud of what your team was able to accomplish. It goes to show you guys are a legit team. You're the real deal. And when they get healthy next year, they're going to be a serious threat. But you can't worry about next year. Let's see what you can do this year in the playoffs. You will be heading to Houston to take on the Texans. Let's see how that matchup goes. The sixth seed goes to the Miami Dolphins. Man, the Miami Dolphins, at one point you were battling for the number one seed, and now all of a sudden you're the sixth seed and you're headed to Kansas City. What a massive collapse. Injuries are piling up. Last week, you played the Ravens, you got destroyed, and then Chubbs goes down with a season-ending injury. You're losing guys by the second. Injuries are piling up. Tyreek Hill is limping on the sideline. He hasn't been healthy for weeks. Mostert, you don't know when you're going to get him back. Waddle, you don't know when you're going to get him back. Injuries are all over the place. It is a tough situation for the Miami Dolphins. And now you got to go to Kansas City. It's very tough for them, but they still got a chance. They just have to figure some things out. It all starts with winning a game. If they can beat Kansas City, they've got a good shot to go down the stretch and potentially put together a run. But It's looking really bad for them right now. And of course, last but not least, I do not know how they find a way to do it. I don't know how they do it, but they find a way to do it every single time. Mike Tomlin, I don't know what type of powers you have. I don't know if Rooney decided to sign something to guarantee this team is always within contention, but somehow this team finds a way to pull it off. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the number 7 seed. I don't even know how they're here. They started off the season well, but their offense was putrid. It was garbage under Matt Canada. The defense was heavily carrying. Injuries started to pile up. They ended up losing Kenny Pickett. He went down with an injury, only temporarily, not long term. But he goes down. They bring in Mitchell Trubisky. They lose to a couple 2-win teams. Looks like the season's pretty much going to be over. They put in Mason Rudolph, and he hasn't been spectacular. But my God, he's not turning the ball over and making mistakes the way Mitchell Trubisky was. He's just running the system and just letting Najee Harris and the other guys do their job. And it's been enough to help them win some games and get into the playoffs. So shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers for getting it done and finding a way to get into the postseason. Let's see what you can do in Buffalo in the wild card weekend. And that's pretty much your AFC bracket. Now let's actually talk about the Ravens specifically to end things off. So Baltimore, with the bracket being set, you now know who your potential opponent could be in the divisional round. It's going to be between one of 4 candidates. The Houston Texans, the Cleveland Browns, the Miami Dolphins, or the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have faced off against all 4 of these teams this season. You played the Steelers twice, you lost. I know you want some revenge on that. And what better way to get revenge than doing it in the postseason? But at the same time, you understand this is a team that's been able to beat you. This is a team that's had your number. You cannot underestimate them no matter what the roster looks like. That's a serious threat. Treat that contender, treat that opponent with some respect, which we always do. So we'll be ready for them. But you know what they're about, so you best be prepared. Cleveland, you faced off against them twice. Beat them in their house with a rookie DTR playing. They come into your building, pull off the upset, come back down 14 with Deshaun Watson. Now they got Joe Flacco at the quarterback position. Joe Flacco's the quarterback, and if he comes to Baltimore, it's going to be Flacco in Baltimore for the divisional round. You know what that Browns defense is made of. They're just as good, if not better than you. That's what the media says. Now, in actuality, are they better than the Ravens? Tough to say. If you look at the numbers, it favors the Ravens in some cases. It favors the Browns in some cases. Either way, if you ask me, the Ravens and the Browns, top 2 defense. It's 1A and 1B, or it's 1 and 2, however you look at it. But you know what the Browns defense brings to the table. You know what type of monster Myles Garrett is. You know what the Browns bring to the table as a threat. If they come to Baltimore, you have to be ready. The Houston Texans, they're probably the team with the least amount of knowledge you have on them, because you faced off against them in week 1. And I can tell you right now, the team you faced off against in week 1 and the quarterback you faced off against in week 1 is not the same team and is not the same quarterback you will face off against potentially in the division round. CJ Stroud has come to form. He is a made man in his rookie year, and he has played like it. He has resurged this Texans franchise. You can feel free to take a look at the film in week 1, but understand this is a serious, serious threat. Do not underestimate any one of your opponents. And last but not least, the Miami Dolphins. This one is the one you're more recently knowledgeable about because you faced off against this very same team in Baltimore 2 weeks ago. You know how explosive their offense can be. You know what they bring to the table. You know what they're capable of when they play at their best. A couple plays go their way instead of our way, that game becomes a lot closer and it's not a blowout. That's just how it is. So you know what threat the Dolphins bring to the table. Just because you beat them in the regular season does not mean you're guaranteed to beat them in the postseason. You need to be ready for whoever's going to be out there for the Dolphins if you were to face off against them. So there it is. The 4 possible matchups for the Ravens. The Browns, the Texans, the Dolphins, and the Steelers. We will see how things go. The Browns and the Texans kick things off on Saturday, so we'll see how that matchup goes. But at the end of the day, you know the 4 teams you could potentially match up with. These are the 4 teams you have faced off against. These 4 teams, you dealt with them in your building. All 4 of these teams have played in Baltimore. Two of them, divisional rivals. And both of them handed you losses in your building. What are you going to do about it? I know John Harbaugh already reported that, or he said to the media that he plans to have the team practice on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So we'll see how that goes. Michael Pierce apparently said that, I think it was reported that Michael Pierce said one of the practices that they're going to have this upcoming week is going to be a practice inside the stadium. So they're going to actually be at M&T Bank Stadium practicing. I guess they're going to do some simulations to prepare for what the playoff atmosphere is going to be, or how, to get themselves a little bit more comfortable during this bye week, or at least to get themselves a lot more, I don't want to say this, just a lot more prepared to try and ease off any level of rust, just to keep them sharper. That would be a better thing to say. Will help them to be a little bit more sharp, feel a little bit more comfortable being on the field and actually having practice there. We'll see how much that impacts and how much that helps the Ravens, but they are planning to do it. That's definitely a difference from 2019. 2019, they actually had a lot more rest, and they didn't actually do a stadium practice. So it looks like they're trying to be more prepared for their opponent. Another difference between 2019 and 2023, we didn't face off against the Titans in the regular season. So we didn't know what we were getting heading into Baltimore. We know what we're getting if we're dealing with the Browns. We know what we're getting if we're dealing with the Steelers. We know what we're getting if we deal with the Dolphins. We know what we're getting if we're dealing with the Texans. We have faced off against all four teams. We know what works, what doesn't work. We've seen the positive, we've seen the negatives. We know what we need to do to get the job done. So get the job done, Baltimore. Simple as that. You've got a week to sit back and prepare for all four of these potential teams to potentially be coming to Baltimore. Once the opponent has been set, you can now take off the other three opponents and zone in on that one opponent you're going to deal with that upcoming week. So spend the week doing your practice, get your film study in, but prepare as if you're preparing to take on the Texans, the Browns, the Steelers, or the Dolphins. Make preparations for all four teams. Then when the team emerges that you're going to face in the division round, zone in on them even more and make even more preparations for those guys. So do what you got to do at the end of the day, Baltimore. You guys are the favorites to come out of the AFC. You're the number one seed. You've been the best team in the AFC, arguably the best team in the NFL. You are favored to go to the Super Bowl. You have home field advantage. If you don't get it done, you can't blame anyone else but yourself. You're going to be as healthy as you can possibly be for the division round game. Do your job and get it done. That's all that needs to be said. With that being said, guys, I appreciate you stopping by. Obviously, this isn't going to be the last topic of discussion involving the Ravens or the playoffs. We have plenty of time to discuss this team, plenty of time to discuss the playoffs, and we will be doing that all week. So be prepared. With that being said, guys, that is all I've got, and I'm out of here, man. Peace.